Good morning, everyone. This is Evangeline Byers, candidate for president of TW Local 100. And I want to have a discussion this morning about contract negotiations and why you need an educated lioness at the table. Good morning. So, the reason why I'm making this video is because, within our local, we've been having a lot going on in regards to violations of our contract, right? As you all know, I'm running for president of Local 100. My name is Evangeline Byers. And why I want to talk about this topic is I was having a conversation this morning, right? Went out, got some tea, and me and one of the members, or one of the people who are going to be running with me, we were having this conversation about contract negotiations. And I was letting her know that while we were in contract negotiations that just passed a while ago, one of the things that really was burning my gears was the fact that the people at the negotiation table did not understand why you should not be giving things back, why we don't have to concede or make concessions or give givebacks during contract negotiations. And so the reason why usually I don't go live from this platform, but I have been put in Facebook jail until January 31st due to talking about why, black people and minorities, well, all people, white people as well, should not be involved in fighting the insurrection and going out and standing against those who were a part of the insurrection and Trump supporters, right? And so because I did that, they basically put me in Facebook jail until January 31st. So I'm over here today. So yeah, so when you go into contract negotiations, first of all, our collective bargaining agreement at TW Local 100 is very, very strong, right? We have a very strong contractual agreement. Over the years, there have been consistent major givebacks in our contract that has basically weakened our position as workers, right? And so when I was at the contract negotiation table this time, I am an RTO, rapid transit. I'm a train operator, so that was the area that I was negotiating. However, I watched in all the other departments that this theme of thinking that when you go to a negotiation table, you got to give something to get something is not true. And what happens every time they do that, they get screwed by the MTA, right? We get screwed majorly by the MTA. Not only by the MTA, but by our own local. Because this time during contract negotiations, if you go and look at the MOU, the MOA, because we have a memorandum of agreement this time and not of understanding. If you go and look at the MOA, it says subject to committees. Everybody's section in the contract says subject to committees, meaning the MTA can go back and along with our union and change whatever they want, and it doesn't have to come before the membership for ratification, right? A lot of people don't understand this, and they always say, oh, she's lying, don't listen to her. Well, how were they able to go back into our medical and change it during the pandemic without bringing it before the executive board? Because the contract is still open. It has been ratified with stipulations in the contract that says subject to committees between the MTA and New York City and TW Local 100. So let's get into why I'm talking about why you need an educated lioness at the table. Okay, now we're going to look at my department. In RTO, when we went to contract negotiations and we were in negotiations, our VP, Eric Logel, is the person who is supposed to be the lead negotiator. Transit gave us their demands, we gave them ours, and while we're going over the demands, they were asking for things like they wanted our overtime. Right? So they wanted to have us work a 13-hour and 20-minute workday with no overtime. Immediately when I saw that, I was like, no, that's not happening. Not on my watch. in sub C, which is the work trains division. Now, we in work trains, if you work in work trains, you basically make 2 paychecks at one time because of the overtime, right? Which you earn because they need you working underground in these GOs, which are general orders, for upwards of 14 to 15 hours, right? 13 hours and 20 minutes is usually the cap of when we sign out. So they're looking at when we're working in this environment, the time, when they look at our time cards, what is the average time that they're working? It's 13 hours and 20 minutes, right? So transit comes to us and says, I want your 13 hours and 20 minutes with no overtime. I want that. And so when transit came to take our 13 hours and 20 minutes with no overtime, I immediately said no. Being someone who's worked in sub C in work trains, I knew that that would be a major blow to our department and to our division, because that means that we would be doing the work that we usually do and not being compensated for it. This only works to the benefit of transit. Now, this is a contractual agreement that we have. Understand that. In our contract, any work that we do after 8 hours, you get overtime, right? So, again, it's in our favor. Transit wants it back. So they come to us and say, give us your overtime. Our VP of the department wanted to use that as a negotiating item to try to see what he can do. I told him, no, you cannot do that. Take it off the table. If you do not take it off the table, I will go and tell the men and women of the department what you're doing, and they're going to make you take it off the table. We will not be giving back our overtime. As a result, they didn't want to listen to me. They left it on the table anyway. So I said, oh, really? Went and told the members, this is what's happening in contract negotiations. You need to get in contact with the VP of the department and tell him that you say no to a 3-day work week at 13 hours and 20 minutes with no overtime, right? So we got that taken off the table. Didn't lose our overtime. We're safe. Another thing that happened in negotiations, we were looking to add another track for discipline when it comes to a cell phone stipulation. And our department, in RTO, which is Rapid Transit for Train Operators, Conductors, and Towers Division, if you're caught on your telephone, it was automatic dismissal. So we needed to get parity with the other departments who have a stronger contractual language when it comes to a cell phone stipulation, right? However, our VP wanted to change the contractual language without letting anybody see it. Not happening again on my watch, right? So I told everybody, listen, contacted all of the executive board members and those who were involved in contract negotiations and had the VP meet with us and show us the language of what he was trying to change and what he would be adding, right? So we looked over all of the stuff dealing with contractual language and the other things that were in the contract. And when we saw that it was good, we gave him the okay to move. Again, no givebacks on my watch. And so if you look at what happened during contract negotiations, my department was the only department that was transparent during contract negotiations. It got so bad during contract negotiations that they kicked me out of negotiations. They banned me from negotiations. However, what I wanted to accomplish had already been accomplished. When we went to ratify the contract, they brought us back a contract and would not give us a physical copy to look at. Now, according to the law, anytime you are going to ratify a contract, you have to give it over to the executive board for review. They never gave us a copy of the contract. Pulled all kind of trickery. We sent them an email the night before asking for a copy of the contract so that we can review it and be ready for ratification the next day. They would not send it. They did not. They showed up without it. We don't even know if the stuff that was agreed upon, which we didn't agree to, but if the stuff that was agreed upon is the same, because we never got the original copy of what they agreed upon. They showed it to us on a screen, on a monitor. And so, with that being said, now things are happening throughout the system, throughout transit with the workforce in regards to contractual agreements. And in these talks that people are having, they're wondering where is this? Why don't we have this anymore? Where is that? It's gone. It's gone. The president of the local agreed to increase our copays for medical, right? If they came for us this time for our medical, what do you think they're going to do next time? We're coming out of COVID. They're talking about their cash strap. All across the system, when it comes to the people who are sitting at these contract negotiating tables, right? They all have the mindset of giving back what we have already won. So it's so much that we already have, that we've lost. We no longer have a healthcare benefit in trust. In Stations Department, you no longer have unlimited OTO. RTO as well. All throughout the system, all you see is that things that we had that protected us are now gone. When it comes to everything, everything has been up for to give back. Also, I was told when I was going into negotiations, my request was that when we get injured in RTO, they would tell us that you have to go to 248 and sit there for 2 weeks in order to get your differential payment, right? Now, that was something that was put in place to penalize us because we voted against the last president. We were not for John Samuelson. So this is what they put in place. We weren't for Utano either, but that's something that was in place. I kept telling the president of the local that is wrong. If everybody else, when they're injured on duty or have a 12-9, which means somebody jumped in front of the train or it was a customer injury on your train, they can go out and just straight out of work, and we in RTO have to go. It's wrong. You cannot do that. And we need you to remove that. We called it the rubber room because you sit there from 7 to 3, no matter how injured you are, for 2 weeks in order so that you can get paid. That was wrong and it needed to be removed. And I kept the pressure on the president, constantly bringing it to him to the point where he came back and they removed it, right? I was told it could not be removed unless we gave something. Again, no concessions when I'm involved. Understand that. No concessions. Everybody told me you're not going to get that. It's not going to happen. It's a money item. You got to give something to get something. No, you don't. No, you don't. What you have to do is be resolute and resolved. Understand what is being presented before you and be able to read with understanding and comprehend. Right? And the union attorney that we had, he's telling me, you can't get this, you can't get that because when it comes to reasonable accommodation for pregnant women, they try to use the law to oppress us. But you got the wrong woman at the table because I understand what it is and I'm not playing with y'all. Right? And so by me being there, change the dynamic of what would have happened in contract negotiations because I understood how things are supposed to function and how things are supposed to operate, right? And so as we prepare to go into this next election cycle, as we begin to push forward, understand that I am a woman who prepares before I go into anything. The people who you think are the most progressive do not understand how important it is to protect our contractual labor agreement. That's what keeps us safe from the MTA being able to do whatever they want to us and to disenfranchise us, right? And to basically put in their oppressive measures to make life a living hell for us while they profit and we don't benefit. We are already behind in the pay scale when it comes to other railroads. The Long Island Railroad and Metro North. We make considerably less. We make about $10 less, $10 to $11 less than, no, more than that, about between $12 and $10 less to what the other railroads are making, and we do the same job. As a matter of fact, we do more. We do way more than they do in a lot of instances when it comes to dealing with customers, assaults, all of the things that we have to deal with on a day-to-day in New York City Transit. They are not confronted with these types of things on a daily basis the way we are. And so I was thinking about this morning, because the people who are running against me, the people who are my opposition, one, they don't understand how contracts are supposed to function. They're also proposing to bring in contract negotiators to take away your voice at the contract table. That's what they're proposing. They're proposing to get contract negotiators to go in. We don't need no contract negotiators. We don't need contract negotiators. What we need is to get a legal team that is working on the best interests of our local, which I'm currently looking for now, right? The best legal minds to come and work on our behalf and not against us, right? That's what we need. We do not need people coming that say that they're going to be a part of lawyers at the table who are telling us what we can and cannot do. We can do and have whatever it is that we want in the confines of the law. If we ask for it and put it out there and go in and bargain for it, we can achieve it. Okay, we've done it in the past. If you look at all of the things that we had in the past and what we have now, we've lost a considerable amount as workers. Now, those anybody coming into the MTA right now, it has to be a culture shock. It has to be like, wait a minute. I thought if you work for the MTA, this is what you're guaranteed. Not anymore. Because the men who sat at the table before me did not have the gumption to say no. Did not know how to organize and lead. Did not take the time to look at it. And this is another thing. And talking to the retirees, because a lot of the retirees have been watching me and my videos and everything else, and they are energized with my spirit and my tenacity to stand up against the tyranny of the MTA and really look at and deal with the severity of the issues, and to make sure that we have things implemented that was never implemented before. So remember, doing contract negotiations, not contract negotiations, when I was working on women's issues, it would have been the first time in the MTA that there would be a reasonable accommodation office for women. An office of reasonable accommodation. Not just a policy, but an office. There was a policy implemented in 2019 that was forced on them by a judge because they would not do it on their own. The MTA would not do it on their own. And they have never had a policy for us. With over the 50, 60 years that we've been in transit, they have never had anything for us. And so when our union head saw that I was making great strides in that, and we had basically had one at the negotiation table talking to them about it, guess what they did? They blocked me from any more meetings, went in and agreed to stuff without first bringing it before the women's committee, and put in the stipulation that the women agreed to something that we never agreed to. So these are the types of things that we are up against, and that there is a concerted effort between our local and management to do what it is that they want to do at our expense, right? Everybody else is well fed and unconcerned, and we're the ones hurting. We're the ones feeling the brunt of the pressure when it comes to dealing with these things. So I want you guys to understand that this is very important. You cannot have leadership at the table that is not member focused, that is not concerned about the will of the people and how is this going to impact us and our family, not for today, but also into the future, right? We're watching people retire right now and go out with great packages. That is not in place for me right now. in the next 25 years, I will not be in a great position to retire based off of the pension plan and that we have set up due to Tier 6. So it's imperative that I be at the helm because this is going to affect me. Everybody else that is getting ready to retire, they're in a good position. They're in a good position to retire. I'm not in a good position to retire. I'm Tier 6. So my fight, my drive, my willingness to continue to forge ahead and stay at the forefront of this movement is very, very important, right? A vote for me is a vote for your interests. It's a vote for your interests. As I go around and I listen to you guys and the things that are troubling you and the things that you find are the most pressing issues right now, I have taken note. I know it already because I'm experiencing it. But I have to still listen to you to understand what that is and then formulate a plan to make sure that whatever is the priority of the membership is my priority, right? Is my priority. Because I can think something is great and talk to you about it and y'all like, no, that makes no sense, right? So I have to take into account the membership and what it is that you need and what you want and what you desire. So, yes, I just wanted to have this talk this morning about why you need an educated lioness at the table. I am 100% resolved and determined to move us into the future in power. In power. Not us conceding and being scared and taking buyouts and bribes. Oh, no. Not on my watch. Listen, the people who came before us, right? The Mike Quills, all of the people that came and did this work around the labor movement to ensure that I could sit here today as an MTA employee, unionized, have medical benefits, have a pension in place, make a living wage. All of this is under attack and under assault. Transit is putting out part-time tests so that we can become at-will workers. We got to understand what's at stake. What is at stake is our livelihood. What is at stake is our livelihood. If you watch what Joe Biden just did, he just fired the people who were working in labor in his cabinet who were from the Trump administration because they were anti-labor. But guess what they did when he fired them? They start saying that what he did was illegal, right? But they're at-will workers. They're working at the will of that administration. And now they understand the importance of labor unions, right? Why contractual agreements between the employer and the employee is very important. Because it gives you protection that your employer cannot abuse you at will. As we see what's happening in Amazon and other companies where they don't have unions, the workers are being railroaded. They're being railroaded. They don't have the protections that we have. They can fire them whenever they feel like it. So we need to understand what's at stake. I'm very, very determined to take this local and turn it around and lead us into the future. I need you guys to understand what it is that we're up against. Unionism is a brotherhood and a sisterhood, right? I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. An injury to one is an injury to all, right? When I took the job working here, I was working as the executive director of New York Students Rising. It's a statewide student organization that defends public higher education. However, in doing that work, it does not start you out with a salary that is conducive to working in New York City, to living and being in New York City, right? But coming into a union that has wages and a salary that is a living wage made sense. And then coming in and seeing all of the things that are happening here, I'm like, this is crazy. How can we have a union and the union is not working for us? How do we have a union and we're being disciplined and fired at an alarming rate? That we're being taken advantage of, by management and our local. So I'm determined to turn this whole thing around. I want you guys to watch, what it is that I'm doing, what it is that I'm proposing, how I'm bringing this all together, so that when November comes and you begin to receive your ballots and you begin to vote, you are 100% confident that Evangeline Byers is going to deliver on your behalf. So you guys track with me over these next few months. Pay attention to the moves that I'm making. Pay attention to how I'm preparing, who I'm bringing around me. Because the tough Tony talk of people saying, "Oh, to get to you, they got to get through us." That's just talk. That's just talk. Let us see the action of it. Let us see the action of it. It's not happening right now. It needs to be being enacted right now. And the people who are sitting in these positions allowed all of these things to happen all of these years. They were a part of it. And now they want to be the majority to take us in? No, it cannot happen. It cannot happen. It cannot happen. It's not to the benefit of us that are going to